Okay, this is Peter Adefioye in another episode of Success Talks. I'm joined today by Richard Serunjogi. How are you today, sir?
I'm really well, thank you. Yourself?
Good. I'm very well. Good to have you. Good
Thanks,
to have you.
it's
Really
a
is a
pleasure.
pleasure. So yeah, we'll kick off by asking, who is Richard Serunjogi?
Sure. Serunjogi is I guess, might describe me as someone who's quite interested in my community, but I think at the core of it is really getting an appreciation of life, so a life experiencer.
So that's brilliant. And just last year, in fact, you were named as one of Britain's top 2 black students, as well as Google ranking you in the top 12 of the young minds of the world. I mean, how did this happen? And if you had to choose 3 skills of yours that really impressed the judges, what would they be?
Sure. Firstly, thank you, very kind of you. I guess probably to look at the skills I reckon the judges saw. Probably firstly, being really keen to make things happen. I think a lot of people have really great ideas, but what tends to happen is that when you're formulating all your plans and your strategies, is it's really hard to make them perfect. But I don't think perfection is ever something to be aimed for, initially at the start at least. I think you've just got to go for it if you've got an idea and you want to make something happen.
You're also behind the LSE London's 2030 Summit. That was great. I went there and it was really good. I wanted to ask, what inspired that? And what was the goal in particular?
Thanks. I think, growing up in London, especially say like in parts of London that might not be so affluent, so for example, outside of the City of London, and all these great businesses that are, churning around lots of money and lots of wealth, is that you really get to see that there are lots of people who don't necessarily enjoy the fruits of our great capital. And I think when you get the opportunity to go to an institution like LSE, which is really celebrated and has lots of great, impressive people coming every single day to come and speak about the issues, I think you've got to do yourself justice, especially if you experience the other sides of London and not so, well, other side of it, about really articulating what people go through. But more importantly, using the platform to bring together influential people, whether that's in business, whether it's in finance or civil society, so they can talk about the issues and you can really give them your agenda of what's important. And I think it's only when people who've experienced, say, not so great things stand up and say it's important that people actually start to come behind it and want to make change happen. I mean, one of the other things about being an institution like LSE, I think often it can be quite elite. It's only people who might have gone to a place like LSE who typically come along. But what we try to do, we actually mail shred virtually every single university in London, say, come look, this is for you, we want a proper debate. So literally in the audience we had people ranging from people who'd gone to, who hadn't even gone to university, people still in college, sixth form, people from University of East London, all the way to people from Harvard in our audience.
Exactly.
And I think there's a real sentiment to the idea that you don't have to be part of an elite institution to actually make a valuable contribution to the debate.
And in your opinion, what do you think the 3 biggest setbacks are for youth in Britain today?
Sure. I'd say probably number 1, I'll probably say job security. I mean, at the moment we have something called 0-hour contracts, whereby people don't necessarily know from one week to another whether they're going to have hours or not. And it might not be so bad for a sixth form student or maybe someone trying to make a bit of money between their university studies. But what about, when you're a father and you've got your family and you don't know whether you're going to have enough money to make ends meet next week? And, the impact that has on children is crazy. I mean, children are aware when their parents are struggling, and the stress it passes on, I think, is only going to create children who are insecure, children who are scared, and frankly, children who are absolutely desperate. And I think when you've got those 3 variables, it's always going to turn to a disaster. Secondly, I'd probably say the housing situation. I mean, if you look at, London is, it's where it's essentially where all the jobs are, to be frank. And a lot of people, want to move to the capital so they can go and develop themselves, develop a career even. Yet there isn't even enough, roofs over people's heads. And I reckon, if you don't have the basics in a society, how on earth do you expect people to do, higher order things like, contribute and be positive members of society? And I'd say probably thirdly is ensuring that we pay people properly. I mean, at the moment, we have a minimum wage, but it's not even enough for people to survive. And I mean, it's all very well saying, we've got this minimum, but if it's not, enough for people to be able to make ends meet and to be able to function within society, I mean, like, what on earth's going to happen? And so I think lastly and thirdly, we need a living wage to make sure people can live in dignity.
Yeah, totally agree. And what are the 3 biggest things you've learnt in the past 3 years?
Sure. I think firstly, it's just the need to, I guess, persevere. And I think very often what will happen is that there'll be challenges or there'll be setbacks. But what you've got to do, just like always, is bounce back. And I think when you start to, I guess, like to falter in the sense that you don't bounce back and you kind of let those knocks take you down, is that you miss out on really great opportunities. And you know, whenever one door closes, it can be another door opening, but only if you're willing to go through it. Because you know, there's always these kind of like industry events and industry kind of internship experiences they had for students who plan to take a gap year. And I remember one of the things I was going to go work on was at a bank, a German bank, a German investment bank, and I applied for it, had a great interview, and then at the end of it, I got feedback saying, you know, you're actually great, we really liked you, you had a really good interview, you've done great things in the past, but because of the sixth one you went to, we're not going to be able to offer you the place. And ironically enough, I'd really kind of asked them beforehand, you know, would this be okay? And they said, yeah, it'll be fine. Then they got to it, and in the end, they said no. And it's really heartbroken at that, because it was going to be like my first kind of experience in an actual proper organisation, well, in a corporate organisation working, and I didn't get it. But on the back of that, I went to go see other opportunities happening in London. And one of my big passions that I'd been working on, I guess, like up to this point, was improving like my community and wider. And I was really keen about building, you know, helping to contribute towards better London. And at the time, we had the mayoral selections for mayoral candidates going on. So I went to go work on one of the selection campaigns for one of the candidates, and it turned out to be one of the best experiences of my entire life. I built some incredible relationships and really learned from leading people how you can actually take your values and take your ideas and turn them into real policies which can affect people's lives. I had this amazing experience on the mayoral selection campaign, and yet if I hadn't persevered, if I'd kind of sat there in my room sulking saying well it's unfair, I wouldn't have had that. And now actually looking back, that experience on the mayoral selection campaign has given me so many more ideas, so many more contacts, so much better experience than I would have ever gained working for, you know, 4 weeks in this bank. And now it's really put into perspective the need to actually persevere when you do get setbacks. Yeah. So I think for me at this stage, failure is when you kind of give up. I think secondly, thing I've learned is just the importance of relationships and having people there to kind of advise you. And I think relationships are crucial to life. You know, firstly for your happiness. You know, making sure you do spend that time with your siblings and with your parents. And I don't think, you know, in today's time, I don't think enough people do. I think it's very easy, like I mentioned, to slip down the path of busy, and people forget about the core things which actually give you happiness and give you that security. And then obviously moving on from that, having good relationships with people in your, I guess, you know, vicinity, whether it's, you know, your university lecturers, because at the end of the day, all these people contribute to you being successful. Yeah. I think towards the start, probably pushing back, so not 3 years, but say 5 years ago, I didn't really have any mentors, and I used to think it was a strength, but it was so naive of me, because it's like no one in this world knows everything, and especially, you know, I guess when you're young, you're trying to grow up, trying to make your mark. And I think I made a lot of like silly little decisions here and there, whether to do with like A-levels, even towards like what I went to go work on later. But I think I've been fortunate that since then I've had, you know, I've met great people, and although they might not necessarily be officially my mentor, I take advice from them. And I think there's nothing more valuable in taking the knowledge of people who've lived it before you. And I think thirdly, the third thing I've learned, and this is very recent, is the pursuit of less. I think we've got to a stage in society, and this is a bit wider reaching, where everyone's busy. And it's quite bizarre, but I mean, people don't even speak to their cousins, hard to speak to their siblings because they're busy. And I think, you know, it's not necessarily a badge of honour if you haven't been on holiday in like 4 years like I haven't at the moment. I'm going to change that soon. It's really bizarre, and I think the only way you're going to be able to really operate at your optimum and to, you know, have great ideas and to be generally happy is by having breaks, by having a balanced life, and really focusing on where you reckon you can add value, and not kind of almost like scattering yourself over too many different areas. And you mentioned relationships and mentors. So, in your opinion, who has been the most impactful person in your life thus far? It's probably not as simple as like one single person. I think it's probably been different like sections of life. So, for example, like my mum, for instance, she's provided like massively. She's always made sure that I've never really wanted for anything, even though it's meant that her making a lot of sacrifice and working really hard. And I think, you know, as long as you kind of got a roof over your head and you're a functioning member of society, you've got to be so grateful to your parents, despite all their flaws, despite little flaws here and there they may have, because you wouldn't be here otherwise. I think academically, personally, I had a teacher during my GCSEs called Mr. Hopper, and he really helped me with English because I wasn't so great. It was my boogie subject. I hated it, and but he really, I think, like supported me, and like when I was being ambitious and I wanted to do better, he was reciprocal in that. He'd give me extra support, and the whole group of my friends, we all rallied on to do pretty well. And I think that's kind of bringing me on to the idea of my peer group. And I'd probably say they're probably the third, in the sense that having good people around me always made sure that where I was maybe not feeling so motivated in some instances, they were there to kind of bounce ideas off me and to kind of challenge me, and I was there to challenge them. And I think, you know, your peer group in life will probably be at least half of your success, simply because you'll be able to, you know, better yourself off the back of them being ambitious, and you both rub off each other in positive ways. And I reckon some people, it's very easy to find comfort in, say, hanging around people who aren't as necessarily ambitious or are doing as well, because relatively it makes you look like you're doing well. But actually, when you look at the, you know, wide world, you're not competing with them. You're working with people who are really changing things up. And I reckon, you know, if you want to go and change things and, you know, do your utmost best, you've definitely got to have people around you who are at least as good as you, if not better. Yeah. I think just the next couple of years, or well, next several months rather, is going to be about learning. I think I'm going to be doing a dissertation in my final year, and so finding an area where I reckon at this stage I can make an impact by studying it a bit deeper and hopefully sharing some of my findings from it. So very much about, I think, like self-development, focusing, and also, like I mentioned, the pursuit of less, really kind of narrowing down what I'm focusing on, and really finding what exactly and where exactly I reckon I can make the most impact at this stage. Very often there isn't necessarily going to be a door. You're going to have to create that door, or you're going to have to go in through the window. But, you know, when you're trying to go towards something, you're really going to have to, you know, I think just recognising that this world, very often, there won't be a set opportunity for you. You might have to go there and make it yourself, and being willing to pick up the phone. And I think recognising that, you know, this world is very, I guess it's there for you to shape. And, you know, most people are very receptive of someone who's keen to make an opportunity for themselves, or keen to persevere in some way. And I reckon just understanding that and using it to your advantage, I really don't think enough people do that. I reckon in 30 years, as long as I can look back and say, you know, I helped someone, or I helped people do something a little bit better in our society, I feel that, you know, I would have done my bit. And I think that's very much for me about kind of sharing my experiences so other people can go on and do it a little bit better. And I think it's really about understanding, you know, firstly, we're standing on the shoulder of giants. So many great people have gone before us. But then secondly, that we have a massive obligation to build and develop and train other people.
Brilliant. Thank you, Richard Serunjogi, for that lovely interview we have done.
Sure, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Hi there, my name is Richard Serunjogi. I did an interview with Success Talks because you are the future, and I want you to do much better than I did.